Hey everyone, this is Jay, also known as jaynemesis on eToro. This is our weekly update for week 26 of 2018. Our weekly stats this week, we have a portfolio change of plus 0.19%, realized profit of plus 0.61%, and a total of 21 trades were closed this week. Top news, Instagram has added video chat in among with a raft of other features, which include a Q&A for stories, as well as 1 hour maximum length videos on the feeds. So Instagram is working hard to try and improve its offering and broaden what the social network is really for and how it's used. And this seems primarily to be a way of trying to combat Snapchat. So Instagram, as we know, added stories not that long ago to compete with Snapchat. Since then, they've also added video chat, as we've seen just now, which can support up to 5 people. This, again, is something to compete with Snapchat. They have filters and all the rest of it as well. So it's a pretty broad offering, and Instagram is definitely the one part of Facebook that I really think has been performing very well recently. And it's pretty much the one big bullish reason to invest in Facebook, in my opinion, since Facebook has been struggling quite a bit recently. That being said, video chat is also provided by a bunch of other services from Discord and Skype and WhatsApp and even Facebook Messenger itself. So it's not huge news, but again, it's another weapon in the arsenal for Instagram. The Tron mainnet has finally launched as well. So this is a month after the EOS mainnet launch. We've now got the Tron mainnet launch. Tron is actually quite similar to EOS in a lot of ways. Their goal for what they're trying to provide is slightly different. They're much more focused on content rather than actual applications. But they run on a very similar consensus protocol to EOS. So currently they're at the stage where, like EOS, everyone is now going to vote for their block producers, although they are not called block producers in Tron. They're actually called super representatives, but effectively it's the same sort of system. So it's pretty interesting. There's been quite a bit of controversy around Tron leading up to their launch, primarily around the code base. So on GitHub, Tron is actually one of the most active GitHubs there is. There's a lot of people contributing to the code, and more than almost any other crypto project, actually. And they've written an awful lot of code in a very short period of time. A lot of big names in the crypto space have actually come out kind of outspoken against this, though, saying that most of the code has been plagiarized and copy-pasted from other projects across the internet. I remember looking at Tron's white paper when they first kind of announced, and it was very, very sketchy. There were bits that were copy-pasted from other projects here and there. And I'm still a bit on edge about Tron. I really don't think it's necessarily a trustworthy project yet, but we'll wait and see. They're launching now, so hopefully in a few months' time, after they've gone through the same sort of hiccups that we've seen with EOS, we can kind of see where the dust settles and just how Tron do. They're currently sat at around about 11th place on CoinMarketCap. Finally, XRP is potentially moving towards decentralization. So those of you who follow XRP will know that Ripple said quite a long time ago, about 2 years ago now, that they came out with this big plan on how to decentralize over time. Ripple used to run on just 7 nodes back then, and they increased that to 18, which is what it runs on now, 18 trusted nodes, and there's a bunch more as well. Kind of, again, similar to how EOS and Tron work in some regards. Unfortunately, these nodes are selected based on popularity, and Ripple themselves actually gave out a default list for people to use of trusted nodes. So effectively, Ripple were basically saying, use these ones, and everyone was using those nodes for the network. But for the first time, there are now, I think, 3 or maybe 4 different trusted nodes in the Ripple blockchain network, ledger, whatever you want to call it, which are not directly either run or partnered with Ripple Labs, the company. So for the first time, you have some nodes in the network that are validating transactions, effectively choosing the order of transactions and saying this one's real, this one's not real or not allowed or whatever, that are not in any way related to Ripple. So is this good news? I mean, I think it's pretty good news, actually, for Ripple. I've complained about them being centralized for a very long time. This isn't my only complaint about them being centralized, and I should point point out that 4 out of 18 being run by third parties does not make a decentralized cryptocurrency, but it is a step in the right direction, and I think it's right to acknowledge that. The problem I have is that they still haven't really addressed the issue of how many tokens are controlled by the likes of Chris Larson, Brad himself, and the rest of the team, along with the tokens that are locked up in escrow. So there's a lot of coins that are still locked up in escrow and still controlled by Ripple or by people who work for Ripple. I think that is still a really big problem. Having one person own more tokens than, or a group of 5 or 6 people own more tokens than most of the community put together, really does kind of irk me a little bit. So there's still some work to do. I don't think I'm ready to start trading Ripple or XRP quite yet, but an interesting development, I think you will agree. And of course, this does follow some other pretty subtle moves that have been taking place to try and distance Ripple, the company, from XRP, the token. And I suspect this is to do with the complaints from the SEC and from a lot of people like myself who suggest that it is centralized. And if it is centralized, then it is kind of a security in a lot of ways, because they decided to give out the tokens to people. They have been distributing them, and they have been directly in charge of the project. And if Ripple, the company, got shut down, then so too would the ledger. Starting to change now, but is it too late? Does that really excuse them from being a security prior to this point? I don't know the answers to those questions, but it's going to be interesting to watch how this situation continues to evolve. Let's take a look at our crypto trades for this week. So we have EOS, Bitcoin, and Ethereum traded this week. 4 trades in EOS with some pretty decent profits, ranging from around 1 to 2% up to, I think there was one that was around 15%. These were pretty much just buying the dip and then kind of closing out for some profit and attempting to buy back a bit lower. I'm pretty happy with the trades overall. I kind of wish that I didn't close one of them, but it's one position, so I'm not really too fussed about it. We've still obviously done very well out of the fact that my trades were closed at the price of $12.47 back when eToro made a mistake with my account. So that's kind of played in our favor a little bit. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with how it's going. Bitcoin, again, just one trade closed. I think it was around 2% profit, if I remember correctly. Nothing spectacular, just buying the dip and selling it after a small profit was realized. And the same with Ethereum as well. So I closed that again during the rally back up from the 6K mark on Bitcoin. Yeah, nothing too exciting. I'm still kind of staying reasonably quiet here because a lot of my funds are invested now. I still am very hesitant to call this, the big bull market or recovery for crypto quite yet. I still think we need to kind of trundle along near the bottom for a while, but certainly there's been a lot of good news recently around Bitcoin and EOS and things, some of which will be featured in next week's update because it happened today and yesterday. So yeah, stay tuned for that. And I think things are starting to look a little bit more positive for the crypto markets. So what about my stock trading? As you can see, I've been pretty busy on the stocks again. Quite a few trades closed here. If we take a look, Take-Two, 3 trades closed. One of them was over 6% profit. I'm not too fussed about trading this much more. The E3 hype has obviously died down now, but we're quite some way past it. And I don't think Take-Two really have as much potential in terms of like esports growth and things like that as a company like Activision or EA. So probably Take-Two I'm not going to trade much. I might maybe keep one position for long-term exposure because I do like the company, I do like where it's going, and I will be listening to their earnings call as well. Activision, again, two trades closed for reasonable profit. This one I definitely want to keep some long-term exposure to. I think Overwatch League last season was incredibly successful. There's a lot going on at Blizzard, and I definitely, and at Activision, to be fair. So I definitely want to try and keep some exposure to this company. But again, it should be reasonably small, maybe 1 or 2 positions. Next up, Alibaba. So Alibaba, some of you may have noticed, has been sat in my portfolio and I've barely mentioned it for a pretty long time. That's actually because somewhere along the line, I I don't remember opening this with a reason. Perhaps I opened it planning to do something short term, then just got distracted or forgot about it. Perhaps I actually did it as a mistake. I genuinely cannot remember how this happened, but I had one position open in Alibaba that was a short. The stock jumped up some time ago and was sitting at around between 15 and 20% loss. And I've basically been patiently waiting for a good dip to close this out on, and we managed to close it for -3%, which isn't too bad. Obviously, it's not ideal. I genuinely don't know when I opened this trade, like what I did it for, or if it was a mistake. It could well have been a mistake. I have opened short positions instead of longs by accident a couple of times in the past, but usually I notice it a lot earlier. This position's actually been open for, I think, somewhere around a month. So regardless, it's closed now. It wasn't a big hit. It's the only position, I believe, that was closed at a loss this week. So pretty content with it, really. Tesla, one trade on Tesla. This was a really nice little trade for just a couple of days. 3.4% profit with no leverage. Pretty happy about that. I do think that Tesla's starting to look potentially a little bit more promising recently. They've laid off quite a few staff recently. That's primarily been in the solar side of the company. So, I think they're focusing on where they need to focus at the moment, which is on producing those Model 3s and getting them out the door. And of course, they have apparently hit their 5,000 cars per week benchmark at last. So good news. Snapchat. So I touched on Snapchat a little bit earlier when we were talking about Instagram. I do think that Snapchat is in big trouble because Facebook are really, really working hard on Instagram to make it a strong competitor to Snapchat, but with even more features, more broadly appealing. It definitely appeals to the same sort of age group and demographic as Snapchat does. So I've continued shorting, and we closed 4 more profitable trades this week shorting Snapchat. I've still got 2 more open. I actually would have opened more, but it appears that there's a liquidity problem for shorts at the moment for Snapchat because eToro, as well as a few other exchanges, all seem to be having problems getting access to shorting on Snapchat. So that in itself actually could be some pretty bad news for Snapchat if there are too many people trying to short it and not enough people willing to lend their shares out in exchange for that. That's not really good news, I don't think. So we'll keep an eye on the situation. But yeah, I would really love to continue trading this more. It's been probably the most active thing that I've been trading over the past few weeks. So hopefully we can short it again sometime soon. Twitter, one trade, 34% profit. So this is one that I held on to for a while, and it just felt like I needed to renew it, to refresh it basically, and kind of let in some of the newer copiers. So there wasn't really any specific reason for closing it when I closed it. It's not like I was trying to take profit and leave with the money. More that I was just trying to take profit and then reopen again at the same price to allow in some new copiers. So when people say, "Oh, you just close all your deep red trades to make your account look better," just know that I just closed a 34% profit on Twitter, which was making my account look very pretty for new copiers. So it goes both ways. I'm not trying to mask my results for anything. I'm literally just trying to trade as I always trade. So yeah, Twitter's done very, very well this year, and I'm hopeful that it will continue to do well. Earnings season, of course, is coming up. So that brings us to our realized trading stats for the week. 21 positions closed in total, 20 of them profitable. Only one was unprofitable, which was the position I mentioned in Alibaba. As you can see, average trade profit 3.82%, which is slightly higher than normal, I think, so pretty decent. An average trade loss minus 3.26%. Most traded this week was EOS and Snapchat with 4 trades each, and our total profit was plus 0.16%. So moving across into our performance tab, and you can see that July, one day into it, is off to an okay start with plus 0.09% so far. We did close June at a loss, very similar to May, in fact. And obviously week 25 last week was a pretty bad week for us. As I explained at the time, sometimes you just kind of have to rebalance and reassess situations. But week 25, we did see a small profit of plus 0.61% realized profit. So hopefully that can help out and not realized profit, portfolio change, I should say. So we'll see where we go, but things are looking okay for us at the moment, I think. Looking ahead, earnings are coming. So the first earnings report I found so far is Netflix, which is in the third week of July. Following that, we've got Google and a few others. There's still a bunch that haven't announced when they are going to be. So I'll keep an eye out for those. But basically, June, end of July, and throughout August, we'll be pretty busy for earnings. So I'll be listening to the earnings reports and trying to hopefully consolidate the information and present it back to you guys, both during these weekly updates and through some potential blog posts and eToro posts as well. So hopefully I can communicate across some of the big changes that are going on within these companies. I'm also turning 30 this week, so it's my 30th birthday tomorrow, actually, at the time of recording this, and probably the time that most of you are watching this. So as a result, I will not be here on Friday, so I will not be streaming this Friday, but normal service will resume following that. And finally, Wix and Etsy are two companies that I do quite like, and I've been looking at them quite a bit for the past few weeks. They're actually both companies that I use on a pretty regular basis, especially Wix. Wix is where my website is hosted. So yeah, I have a reasonable knowledge of both of these, and I think they're both pretty good potential and seem to be something that no one else is really trading on eToro. But yeah, I found them on eToro a few weeks ago, and yeah, I'm looking to potentially trade them. So keep your eyes peeled, and perhaps they will turn into something I regularly trade. But for the moment, I'm more focused on just sort of holding them for long term with a small amount in each one of them. Well, that just about wraps up for this week, guys. Again, not an amazing week, but not too bad considering the continuous dip that we have seen on cryptos. Does look like that's bottomed out for now, though, so things are looking up. Look forward to speaking to you all again next week.